Okay, so I'm going to go on with number 12 and 13, and let's go ahead. Let's find the amplitude. The amplitude is 2 right there. Period is going to be taking our b, which is 1, 2 pi over 1, which is 2 pi. Our increments is going to take the 2 pi and cut up in 4 parts so we can figure out our increments. And that's going to be pi over 2. The phase shift takes the parentheses, which is x plus pi over 4, and set it equal to 0. Subtract pi over 4 from both sides, and guess what? X equals negative pi over 4. Okay, so our starting point is going to be negative pi over 4 and something. We're going to find that. Midline is anything that's added on the end right here. So it's going to be y equals 0. Okay, if I'm going to go in and I'm going to find the key point table, well, first of all, I have to know that I'm starting at negative pi over 4. Our increments, I said, was pi over 2. So that means I have a negative quarter, but I get 2 quarters because a half is worth 2 quarters. So negative 1 quarter plus 2 quarters, right? A half is the same. Half dollar is the same as 2 quarters. So that's going to give me a positive quarter. All right. So this is going to be pi over 4. Then the next one I get, I'm going to add another 2 quarters because half a dollar is 2 quarters. I'm going by 1/2. That's 2 quarters. So this is 3 quarters. Whoops, I almost wrote just 3 quarters, but it's 3 pi over 4. And then the next adding 2 quarters is 5 pi over 4. Because I'm at 5 quarters, get 2 more quarters, I have 7 quarters. Okay, these numbers are pretty ugly. And what that means is that we have to know how to spread that out up here. So if this 7 quarters is really close to 2 pi, so I'm going to make this 2 pi, and this is going to be pi, and halfway is pi over 2, and on either side of that we have quarters. So this would be a quarter pi, 3/4 pi, 4 quarters, 5 quarters. This is 6/4, but I don't use it. 7 quarters is next. Okay, and then I come over here and I have to repeat everything I just did. Notice my numbers. So I have to have negative pi over 4 for starters. And then I'm not going to be using pi over 2. So I'm going to go to 3 pi over 4. And this is negative pi, in case we want to know. Negative 5 pi over 4. Negative 7 pi over 4. And this is negative 2 pi. Okay, so I've got everything filled in. Now my magic numbers are going to be, fill them in. I'm starting with cosine. Be careful. Cosine means I start at 1. So every other one is a 1, and the second one is negative. Zeros to plug in. My phase shift, no. Amplitude. I need my amplitude lines in here. My amplitude is here. Okay, amplitude bottom line. Now, the cool part is this is my midline. All right, and so now I'm going to take 2 times my magic number, y2. It's from this. times the magic number plus 0. Well, I don't need to, well, adding 0 doesn't change anything. So all I have to do is double all of these numbers. 2, negative 2, 2, and 0 doubled is still 0. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and graph this. By the way, I just figured out this extra where I'm starting. So I start at, yes, pi over 2 and pi over 4 and up 2. So it's up here. That's the start. Remember, this is cosine. Cosine will always start on an amplitude line. The next point is going to be pi over 4. I'm looking back at my chart where it's telling me to go to, and that's at 0. And then the next number is 3 pi over 4. It goes to negative 2, down to the bottom amplitude line, back to the midline. But be careful, I'm only going on the pi over 4s on this. So my next pi over 4 is here. So if I were to graph this, sorry, it takes total silence of, I can tell I started talking at the end, my line got bumpy, and it was pretty good on the front side. Okay, one thing I want to do is keep arrows going because these graphs go forever, and I have said that since day one. Now, all of the pi over 4s are where magic's happening. After this, it goes back down to the line, down to the bottom line at the next pi over 4, back up to the midline. Oh, looks to me like I didn't go enough to get a full cycle in. I've got to get another period in there. There we go. Okay, and it's going to go back up here on the top. Alrighty then. There. And I would always have arrows on the end because it continues forever. All right, let's see if we can get the next one done. And this is the last one, the end. All right, so I didn't mean to click on something there to make that happen, but I did. All right, so amplitude is 1/2. The period comes from the B. So period is equal to 2 pi over 2. So that gives me pi. Increments is going to be pi divided by 4, or period over 4. And in this one, oh, did I do the last phase shift right? Sorry. Let me add one thing to this real quick. This phase shift up here, it should have said phase shift because it's negative pi. We should have said it's pi over 4 to the left. Oh, quick correction. Sorry. All right, I realized it when I was doing this one. So we're going to do our phase shift here. And I'm going to take this for the phase shift, and I'm going to do 2x plus pi equals 0, 2x equals pi, divide by 2, I get pi over 2. So that's positive. So if it's positive, it's going to the right. Okay? Back to my black pen. All right, so my starting point is going to be pi over 2, comma, something, don't know yet. Y equals negative 2 because it's coming from this point right here. Okay? All right, so I'm going to go start here with my pi over 2. That was my starting point. I set the parentheses, equal to 0. This is where the parentheses were. All right. Now, I know the increment is going to be pi over 4. So that means I am adding pi over 4. Oh, I'm adding quarter pies again. So if I'm at $0.50, I add a quarter, I get 3/4 pi. I add another quarter, I get pi. I add another quarter, I get 5 pi over 4. And at another quarter, I'm at $1.25, so I'm at $1.50. 3 pi over 2. I'm feeling southern tonight. All right, now I am on cosine, so cosine starts at 1. So now I do 1, 0, 1, 0, 1, and the second one is a negative. All right, so I am going to take that magic number and do, look where I'm underlining this in yellow. This is the worst part for you all. So you take 1/2 times the magic number minus 2. Half of the magic number. So half of 1 is 1. 1 minus 2 is -1. So that means I've got both of those answers. 0 minus 2 is -2. And -1 means -1/2 minus 2 is -2.5. All right, since I'm on a half scale, it's got to bump down to, yeah, I'm just going to keep it where it is. Midline. Okay, when I don't talk, I'm concentrating really hard to make a straight line. This is my midline, where y equals -2. All right, then I'm going to do my upper and lower boundaries. Those are called my amplitude lines, and they're really hard to do when they're 1/2s. Your test paper will be a little easier to graph on. I like the squares on the paper better. All right, so we get our halves in there, and another half. There's my amplitude lines. Once I have the amplitude lines, oh, let's graph. It's almost Christmas. Oh, you know what? I was going to put, let me go back up here. I feel like graphing in red. My period is pi. So if, I tell you what, would it be funny to do this? They're pi over 4s. It'll work. If I make this pi, and this is pi over 2, this is pi over 4. This is 3 pi over 4. And then we get pi, and then we get, cut it in half, half again, 5 pi over 4, 6 pi over 4, which is 3 pi over 2, another mark, and this is at 2 pi. That's 7 pi if you need it. Okay. All I did was put in my marks. This is negative pi. This is -2 pi. It just kind of helps to have those marks. This is -3 pi, pi over 2, excuse me, pi over 2. This one's -3 pi. I was thinking about it. And this is negative pi over 4. So I've got most of my points, and I said I felt like graphing this one in red. So I'm going to start with pi over 2. Notice it's positive pi over 2, which is right there. All right, and we go down 1. So we're starting right here. I'm graphing a cosine. I'm on an amplitude line, which is what happens. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is go to 3 pi over 4, which scoots over only 1. It's really close. It goes back to -2. So now I'm on the midline. The next one's going to go, so since I started on the top, I go to midline and then down to pi and then up and up. And here we go. And this was a positive cosine. Whoops. Now, whichever side I have the most room is the way I'm going to go back with it. So let me grab orange. And it's going every pi over 4. Look how quick this reproduced itself. There we go. Okay. I want to double check the one I did above. Was it negative to begin with? Don't tell me I messed it up. I didn't have a negative cosine. Would you look at that? I had all positive cosines. Only one negative sign was in there. All right. Well, I hope this helps. And always use Delta Math to help you as well.